I'm Kelsey Parker and I'm having a baby.
At Kelsey Parker.
Oh yeah, she's been all over the news.
Right. Her pregnancy announcement?
3 years after losing Tom.
From The Wanted.
Yeah, it's a lot to process.
It really is. I mean, some are praising her, others are criticizing her.
For moving on too quickly.
Exactly. We're gonna unpack all of it, look at different sides.
See what it all means.
Yeah, what we can learn.
About grief, expectations, the whole thing.
It's such a fascinating case, you know?
It is. It shows how we think about grief, societal expectations.
All of that.
Like unwritten rules, how long you should grieve, what you wear.
When it's okay to start dating again.
Exactly. And Kelsey's story, well, it's so public.
It makes you think, are these expectations helpful?
Or harmful.
Or maybe both?
Right. Bit of both.
It's like she's balancing on a tightrope. Joy and grief, you know?
And everyone's watching.
Judging every step.
It's intense.
She's been so open about it all, too. The emotions, talking about the guilt she feels.
Alongside the joy of the baby.
Bittersweet, right? Especially because they wanted 4 kids.
Kelsey and Tom.
Always.
It adds another layer, doesn't it? Honoring a dream, but also maybe holding back.
From fully moving forward.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
Makes you wonder what Tom would think.
I know, right?
Because Kelsey has said she believes he wouldn't want her consumed by sadness.
That's a powerful thought.
She's building a new life for herself, the kids.
But with so much criticism.
It's hard enough without that.
People saying it's too soon.
That she's not honoring his memory.
It's tough to see.
It really is.
Like she can't win. If she's sad, she's not strong for the kids, happy, and she's judged for not grieving right.
It's a no-win situation.
It shows how these expectations, they can be more about controlling behavior.
Than actually supporting someone hurting.
Exactly. Support, not control.
But is it always wrong to criticize? I mean, does everyone get a free pass? Just because they're grieving?
That's a good point. There's a balance, right?
Yeah. Where's the line between support and enabling harmful choices?
That's the question, isn't it?
I feel like with Kelsey, it's less about her actions and more about the reactions.
People reacting to something that doesn't fit the mold of how you should grieve.
Right, like we try to put grief in a box with timelines, stages.
But grief's way more complicated than that.
And you know, it's interesting, this idea of disenfranchised grief.
Oh, tell me more about that.
When someone's grief isn't acknowledged because it doesn't fit the norm.
Like it's not valid.
Right. And maybe that's what's happening with Kelsey. Some people don't see new love after loss as real grief.
It's like they're saying you can't be sad and move on at the same time.
Exactly.
It makes you think about all the ways grief can be and how we judge based on, well, what we think we know.
Right, our limited understanding. But we can't forget the kids in all this.
Oh, absolutely. Kelsey's children, they're grieving too.
Losing their dad and seeing their mom go through all this.
Their understanding of it all must be so different.
And Kelsey has said how excited they are about the new baby.
It's a good reminder. Kids can experience joy even in grief.
Look forward to the future. They don't have the same expectations.
They process things differently.
And Tom's legacy, it's not just grief.
Right, it's love and joy too.
That love continues, shaping their lives.
Inspiring Kelsey to embrace life.
Create a future full of happiness.
I love that. It's both sorrow and joy.
As we go deeper, we have to remember how complex this is.
No easy answers.
No one right way to grieve.
It's about empathy and understanding.
Recognizing Kelsey's experience is hers.
We can learn from her.
Without judgment.
Exactly. It's like we're okay with grief when it fits in, you know.
Quiet, respectful, all that.
Predictable. But Kelsey's grief, it's not like that. It's messy.
Real.
And maybe that's why the reaction is so strong.
To her pregnancy? Yeah.
It shows she's moving on, embracing life.
And some just aren't ready for that. See it as a betrayal almost.
Like she's over it. But that's where this dual process model comes in.
For grief.
Yeah, says grieving isn't a straight line. It's back and forth.
Between two needs.
You got it.
Yeah.
Loss-oriented, dealing with the pain. Yeah. And then restoration-oriented.
Adapting to life without them.
Exactly. So it's not forgetting or replacing.
It's finding a way to live with their memory.
Yeah, in your new reality.
And for Kelsey, maybe the baby's part of that.
Could be. Honoring their life together, but also the future.
For her and the kids.
Right. And each person, they experience these processes differently.
Loss and restoration.
No set time, no right way. Some lean more on one side than the other.
It's their journey.
It is. And brings us back to the kids. How do we support them?
While letting them be excited for a sibling.
Tough question. But we know kids grieve differently.
Than adults, right.
They bounce back quicker, maybe?
Yeah.
Sadness than plain?
They don't think about death the same way.
No, not as abstractly.
So we gotta be honest with them.
But use words they understand.
At their level.
Right. And let them express themselves however they need to.
Words, art, playing, just being together.
They're resilient, but they need us.
To guide them. And Kelsey's talked about how her kids are excited for the baby.
That's good to hear.
They even ask about their dad, what he'd think.
Oh, that's sweet.
It sounds like she's open with them about both the grief and the joy.
That's gotta be so hard.
Must be. But it shows strength, commitment to a healthy environment,
She's modeling vulnerability, letting them see her process,
teaching them about resilience.
finding light in the dark.
And Tom's legacy, it's not just about the loss.
No, it's the love, the joy too.
The connections that stay, even after death.
It keeps evolving. As his kids grow, make their own memories.
The love doesn't disappear, it's the foundation for their new reality.
Exactly. Even in death, loved ones shape us.
Their absence leaves a hole, but also space for growth, new love, new chapters.
It's like a garden. Lose a flower, but the soil's still there. New life can grow.
Beautiful analogy. And it makes us think, how can we be more compassionate?
As people, as a society. Towards grief.
It starts with recognizing that everyone grieves differently.
No one way fits all. What works for one might not for another.
Well, we gotta let go of those expectations. Let people grieve their way.
No judgment, no pressure.
See grief as strength, not
The
weakness.
sign of love, the impact they have.
We're all connected by loss. We can find strength in supporting each other.
Through the ups and downs,
And maybe by seeing stories like Kelsey's, we can start to change.
our understanding of grief.
Hmm.
Create a more supportive place for those hurting.
There's still so much to talk about, so much to learn. But let's take a break
Catch our breath.
before the final part of Kelsey's journey. Okay, so we've talked a lot about grief and expectations, but haven't really touched on Kelsey's new relationship.
Right.
Dating Will Lindsay, a tree surgeon, met last September.
Yeah.
And this has really sparked some strong opinions.
Yeah, it has.
People saying it's too soon.
Too soon for a new relationship.
Exactly. What are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's understandable, right?
Yeah, I guess so.
We connect grief with being alone, withdrawing.
So new love after loss, it feels off.
To some people, disrespectful even. But again, it's those expectations.
Like we have this idea of how grief should look, and if you don't fit it, people get uncomfortable.
It makes them question things.
So with Kelsey, they're saying it's too soon.
But grief, it's not a schedule.
No set timeline.
Everyone heals differently.
At their own pace.
For some, new love feels wrong, like betraying the person they lost.
But for others, it's healing.
A way back to life, to joy, after so much darkness.
And it's not for us to judge that, is it?
No, not at all.
We don't know her heart, her grief.
Or her reasons.
Exactly. And we can't forget, she's a person going through something huge.
It's easy to forget that with public figures.
All the comments, judgments online.
It's a lot to handle on top of everything else.
So how do we create a better environment for people grieving, especially publicly?
By recognizing that grief, it's so personal.
So many layers.
No one right way. We have to be careful with our words, judgments.
The expectations we put on people.
It's like we're scared of griefs,
Right.
want to rush through it.
But if we were more open, talked about it more,
Acknowledged it.
maybe then we could be more compassionate.
Create a real space for healing.
It starts with us, right? One-on-one.
Listening without judgment. Offering support.
Acknowledging pain without trying to fix it.
Grief is normal.
Part of being human. It shows how much we love, how much they meant to us.
And maybe, by being vulnerable, letting ourselves feel it.
That's how we feel, how we grow.
Well said. Kelsey's story shows us grief's not an ending.
It's a journey.
Everyone's is different
And it needs our compassion, our support.
all the way through.
Thank you all for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a privilege.
Until next time, take care of yourselves.
And each other.